All right, so the next thing, I'm just going to delete that. So, and we're just going to go back to kind of the more normal piece so we don't get kind of confused. All right, so, how are you going to build this? Is it going to be just kind of simple form? I mean, the other thing that you can do is that you can put multiples of these together, all connected to the same rail, but maybe it's like, oh, now I need to build the pillow. So the pillow is this other section. Maybe it needs to be filled, and I can fill it that before it goes in so it becomes more pillow-like. And I'm going to like say, I don't know, 1.5 is my radius. So I'm going to double click and I'm typing in 1.5. And that gives me a slider that I can plug into this radius. And you can see right here, my previews that it's actually a nice radius. So maybe if I don't want 1.5, maybe more like 1. And if I double click on the radius part, you can see I have a slider in front of me. So I'm changing the max down to, say, 2 is my max. So I'm just grabbing at the 2 and I'm just shrinking it down. I can go even further, maybe 1.5 is my max. And 0 is my minimum. That's okay. That's great. And so I can see that that's what that is. And if I plug that into where the section goes, then what I get is a perfect pillow. Well, that's awesome. And if I change the rail, the pillow also follows it. So I can get multiple things going on and follow that same thing. So I can just have like a lot of power. Suddenly I can change things. I can look at different contexts. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to go with that. Now, other things. I mean, if this was a solid form, then maybe this is great. If I wanted to kind of break it up into a bunch of like slats, and that's how I wanted to build it, then I have other things that I could start to do. This is where we get a little bit more advanced, and we'll see. We'll see if you want to go here, but I might as well, right? All right, so I'm gonna turn on the preview of that so we can kind of see. And if I wanted to, I think what I want to do is I want to offset the surface. So I just typed in, double clicked, put offset surface, and I'm going to put that surface in there. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. We're offset distance, say 4 inches. So I'm going to double click on the canvas, put in 4. It automatically comes up with that. Doesn't look like it's very happy. Anything that I'm doing. Okay, darn. Okay, well that didn't work. That's fine. So let's imagine that you wanted to cut this object into a series of slats that were kind of perpendicular to how this curve was running. So let's just look at that. So what you do, and I realize that this is a little much, right? But let's just do it. And then you can have something in your bag of tricks. So what I'm doing is I'm going to curves. So essentially I want to divide this curve into a bunch of points that are going to be perpendicular to the curve so that I can cut through the object. And maybe this object, we'll try that. So I'm looking up here, I have division, which is pretty much what I want, but then I also have this perpendicular frames, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to grab that, I'm going to plug this rail into it, And you can see that I get a series of perpendicular frames. Well, those frames are going to come in handy. So what I want to do is intersect. And I know we're going at light speed right now, but I'm just going to give you a tool. You can use it, maybe, maybe you won't, but it's a tool. So you can use it however you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this B-rep plane. What you'll notice is that the CapEx on the other side, the output, is a B-rep. And a B-rep is essentially a polysurface or a polysolid. So that's what's going to go in there. The plane, which is essentially these frames, those are the same. And you can go in there and I can see that what I have is a bunch of curves. And if I export them, I can also change them to surfaces because they are planar. And then I could also extrude them in a certain direction. Let's see if I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. I'm a little nervous that this turned red. I have a guess why that happened. I think that this one at the other end is not happy because there's not anything to cut through because it's like right at the infinite kind of point. So we may have a little bit of Rhino to do, but essentially I can also divide this into more planes. The number of frames that it created were 10. So if I counted each one of these, I would get up to 10. I can put more in by just changing that number with this slider, and it automatically will create a denser version of itself. So as I move this, I'm getting denser and denser cuts. And these surfaces, essentially, if I bake this right now, put that on layer 2, and I turn this thing off, I'll get a bunch of planes. And that's exactly what I want. All right. So that would be just something that I could model. I can look at doing more, and I'll do one more thing before we stop this video, just to give you a sense of kind of the full power of what you can do. What I would want to do is I want to extrude those. So let's just go one step back so I don't have them baked. And I take those surfaces and I extrude them. I need to know what direction to extrude them because it's if I extrude this one is going to be kind of directly in Y. This one will be slightly off of Y. And eventually they're getting closer to kind of direction is X. So I just need to figure out how to do that. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm just going to give it to you. So if we look at, I think, if we look at this area, it's going to give us a point right in the center of the plane. And I think then if we connect on the surface, we do a little bit of analysis. And again, I'm just going to give you some heads up. It's the surface closest point. So that point, this is the centroid. And against that surface, it's going to give me a UVP. And I think if we look at one more thing, if I evaluate the surface, I need that UVP here, and I need that surface in there. And it's going to give me a direction called the normal. And I know this is like a lot, but essentially the normals, if we had let me turn off some of this stuff so you can kind of see what's going on. If I put a vector, a display vector, All right, display vector. This is the vector. This is where it's coming from. You can see that each one, as it comes off of those planes, and I'll turn this down so we can really see what we're doing, is pointed in the right direction to the normal of that frame of this section. Again, I'll turn that on. Very cool. So now I got it. Extrude. Extrude. What am I going to extrude? I'm going to extrude this surface. Which direction? Is that normal? All I need to do is tell it how far. That's what I just typed in amplitude. A couple of these words, I wish they didn't use that, because how are you going to know what to do? And then all I need to do is throw on a distance. So let's say that's just coming out of a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. That's my amplitude, which is the distance. Vector is coming from this normal. That goes in there. There. That is, now we bake that. We'll throw it on layer 3. And I close this. And there you go. We have kind of the framework of this. Now the beauty of this little script we've built is that it will allow us to do all kinds of things. So if I just go back and I don't bake it, and let's say I just throw it on a different curve, and then I look at turning this stuff off so it doesn't cloud what I'm seeing, and I bake, say, turn off that, I bake this thing, and I bake this thing. Turn this off just to look. Oh, I didn't get the, it only baked one of the things. I think I have to, I think if I want to bake them both, I think I have to select them both and then select somewhere else, not on top of it. So we can do that just to prove that it works. And bake. And shut this down. You see we got the skin. And we have the thing that's creating it. Pretty cool. And again, I have like complete control over it. I can change this at a moment's notice. Everything kind of changes with it. I can make this thicker. Say I want it 1 inch instead of 3/4. Then it changed it. If I want it denser, I want these 20 of these, not 13. It all changed. This thing gets a little too cranky. I can just say, I think I want to rebuild that. Let's turn it down to 5, and it'll make it a little bit smoother. And there it goes. It did it. So that's the beauty of Grasshopper. You can do a lot of things. The things that I would probably do is I would use it for loft. Loft, you know, if I had several things going on at you know, that I needed to say loft this and alt, and I do, you know, something that does this, and then maybe it does one more thing, and maybe this is a wall element that does kind of things of that nature. I can just go in, type in curve, throw this in, set multiples, and select them from bottom to top, and put that in there, and automatically I have something like that. If I want to make them not, smooth, because you can see that it's kind of like smooth like that, I have options. So if I just type in loft and options, and plug that in there, I have the various options. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I just type in, like, say 3 and plug that in, and this suddenly will change the way that it's thinking about itself. So you can see that it really just became what's called a ruled surface. So it went straight down, straight across. Or I can do something looser, something more like a normal, something's a lot tighter. Well, I didn't like that one, or something like that. And you can see, you can do that all dynamically. Change it. It could be a cloud form above you. You could use this thing on a cloud and create a bunch of different kind of fins that you name it, all open to you. So what I want you to do is create some kind of, you can do this with multiple objects, just create some kind of form. Sculpture, I want it to be functional art, so I want it to be like a bench, or I want it to be some kind of cloud that light kind of comes through in a different way. Just do something pretty, don't go crazy, but do something interesting. And then in the next video, I'll show you how I want you to import that.